You're watching Eagle News America. I'm Anna Cui, coming to you from Las Vegas, Nevada. It is Sunday, November 22, 2020. Tonight, we have updates from several of our correspondents across North America. Starting with our Bureau Chief, Thomas Likeness in Edmonton, Alberta.
Canada's COVID case count causes a critical crisis.
Philip Toledo in Atlanta, Georgia.
More and more ballot counting ahead for Georgia.
Myla Simbulan in Swarthmore, Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania Department of Health announced efforts to protect the community and vulnerable Pennsylvanians.
Next, we have David Reggio in Oxnard, California.
LA on limited stay-at-home order over weekend for counties in most restrictive purple tier of safer economy blueprint.
In Las Vegas, Lori Jarvina.
Las Vegas unveils new gateway arches.
And we'll hear from Monica Velasco in Baton Rouge with several stories for us tonight. First, Louisiana governor urges more COVID compliance due to the rise in cases. Louisiana marks the start of Interstate Highway 10 Widening Project near the Texas border. And today is the 57th anniversary of President John F. Kennedy's assassination in Dallas. And for our virtual roundtable discussion, motivational quotes to start our week. Our coverage begins now. First, an overview of today's COVID-19 numbers. According to the Coronavirus Resource Center of Johns Hopkins University in Medicine, as of 6 p.m. Eastern Time Sunday, November 22, 2020, number of cases of COVID-19 reported worldwide is now more than 58,521,000. Top three on the list of countries with recorded cases. U.S. on the lead with 12.2 million, followed by India with 9 million, and Brazil with 6 million. More than 1,386,000 lives worldwide have succumbed to this virus. And again, top three countries with the most number of COVID-19 related deaths are U.S. with more than 256,000, followed by Brazil, more than 168,000, and India with more than 133,000. Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador demands middle-income countries be able to access credit at interest rates equivalent to those prevailing in developed countries as he addresses the G20 virtual summit hosted by Saudi Arabia. Take a look.
Sin precedentes. Sin embargo, la crisis económica que precipitó la pandemia afectó la actividad productiva y el crecimiento disminuyó en una proporción sin precedentes en los últimos 90 años. Por ello, hacer realidad el compromiso de quitar montos de deuda y del pago de servicio de la deuda a naciones pobres del mundo. 2. Garantizar que los países de ingresos medios puedan tener acceso a créditos con tasas de interés equivalentes a las que están vigentes en países desarrollados. Espero que seamos capaces de dejar en la historia un ejemplo de cómo hacer frente a una amenaza sanitaria mundial y a una grave crisis económica mediante la aplicación del principio de la fraternidad universal. Muchas gracias.
Meanwhile, G20 leaders said Sunday they will spare no effort to ensure fair distribution of coronavirus vaccines, but the united front was punctured by Germany's Angela Merkel, who said progress was too slow. At a virtual summit hosted by Saudi Arabia, the world's richest nations pledged resources to shore up the pandemic response and to support poor countries whose economies have been ravaged by the crisis, but offered little detail.
Together, we have addressed this challenge with seriousness necessitated by the responsibility to preserve human life. We agreed to spare no efforts in creating the conditions for affordable and equitable access to COVID-19 vaccines, therapeutics, and diagnostic tools.
The German chancellor said she was concerned that no major vaccine agreements have yet been struck for poorer nations, even as rich countries have already bought up huge numbers of doses from pharmaceutical firms. Saudi Arabia's King Salman said at the end of a weekend of digital diplomacy that the spirit of cooperation was needed now more than ever to face the impact of the pandemic and create a prosperous future for the people of the whole world. The group of 20 leading economies struck a positive tone in their closing communique. But as richer nations plan their vaccination programs, with the U.S. expecting to launch in early December, experts warn that developing countries face hurdles that could deny billions the first proven protection against the virus. Calls are mounting for the G20 to help plug a $4.5 billion funding gap in the so-called ACT Accelerator, a mechanism led by the World Health Organization that aims to ensure access to tests, treatments, and vaccines for all. In other news, at a sprawling refugee reception center in Sudan, Ethiopians who fled the deadly Tigray conflict queued haphazardly outside a school-turned relief facility to receive handouts of food, water, and clothing.
جينا ذاته ما في حاجة إخدام لقينا العيش سايب الشهدة من الطاحونة الدير رموها ذاته بنقول لهم ادونا عشان ناكل شوف الزحمة دي الناس اللي بتتدقى والناس الزحمة بالتجارة دي عشان تاكل لرقبتها في اليوم واحد بناخد فدة واحد آكل دي زي العشاء زي الفطور زي الغداء بس عندنا ليها.
Ethiopia's northern Tigray region has been rocked by bloody fighting since November 4, when Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed announced the launch of military operations there. The ongoing conflict is reported to have killed hundreds of people and forced thousands more to flee into neighboring Sudan. On Friday morning, Al-Amshed took his place in a long queue outside the aid facility to receive clothes, soap, and other basic items. Ethiopians, frustrated by the wait and the sweltering heat, jostled to enter as a couple of Sudanese security forces standing guard tried to shoo them away with sticks. Hours later, refugees broke through the metal gates and rushed to complete for handouts. Now on to our updates. In Canada, the current COVID case count causes a critical crisis. Bureau Chief Thomas Likeness joins us tonight. Thomas?
Thank you, Anna. A dark cloud hanging all over Canada, and that cloud is not filled with droplets of rain. There's no flakes of snow in it. It's loaded with millions of particles of coronavirus, shells of protein filled with nucleic acid, waiting to infect healthy Canadians with COVID-19. I watched on Friday as Prime Minister Trudeau stood outside of his Ottawa home. He was begging Canadians to follow all public health guidelines. He called on employers to once again have people work from home when possible. He implored people to just stay home, don't socialize, and forget about the holiday season if things don't change. Now, the country's chief public health officer, Dr. Theresa Tam, had just released her latest projections, and she saw those same dark clouds in her crystal ball. The best case scenario seems to be in about a week or so, Canada will be seeing 20,000 new cases of COVID daily. The worst case? 60,000 a day by the end of December. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau reflects on those numbers.
Dr. Tam presented the updated COVID-19 modeling for Canada. Canada could have up to 20,000 new cases daily by the end of December if we don't limit or reduce our contacts now. And if we loosen and increase our contacts, we could see tens of thousands more. I know this isn't what people wanted to hear, but we have to be realistic about the situation.
But that realism doesn't include declaring a national state of emergency. There will be no coast-to-coast lockdown. Instead, Trudeau's leaving it up to the provinces and their leaders. Targeted lockdowns have been implemented in a number of areas with high case counts, and that's something Trudeau is encouraging the provincial premiers to do. We also heard from Alberta's top doc. You've heard her on the program before, Dr. Dina Hinshaw, and she says it's not just seniors who are severely affected by COVID-19. But what's troubling you now, Dr. Hinshaw?
to be concerned about the rise in these tragic outcomes of COVID-19. Severe outcomes are not limited just to those already at the very end of their lives, and it is a mistake to think so. This week, 2 individuals in their 30s died as a result of this virus. While both had comorbidities, these were not on their own life-threatening. The average age of people experiencing hospitalization is dropping. And about 1 in 4 people who need hospital care for COVID-19 and 1 out of every 6 in ICU with COVID-19 have no pre-existing medical conditions.
And I just learned yesterday that in southern Alberta, a woman in her 20s, died of COVID. So there you have it, we're all at risk. And while we all take steps to minimize that risk, I wish you all good health. Remember to take care of others, take care of yourselves. Stay home, stay safe, and stay tuned to Eagle News for accurate and balanced coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic and other current affairs. In Edmonton, Canada, Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Thomas. Well, you know, that's the same thing that we're seeing, same stories that we're hearing from everywhere else, it seems like. And I heard you say earlier, 20,000 cases per day. What are the actual latest numbers over there?
Okay, today we were at just under 5,000. And what's troubling is 1/3 of them came from my province. And we're not a big province in the scheme of things. We have maybe, I don't know, less than 10% of the country's population is here in Alberta, and yet we had 1/3, nearly 1,600 new cases. Now, I did a little math here. So in the last 24 hours, those nearly 1,600 cases, well, the coronavirus has been pretty busy infecting, get this, 66 people an hour. Also troubling are the hospital numbers in Alberta. 319 people hospitalized with COVID. 60 of them are in intensive care.
Yeah, those are troubling numbers. And, you know, as we heard, the cases are not, you know, they don't rise laterally, right? They rise exponentially. So when you say 66, that number could easily triple or, you know, really rise to a much higher number.
And that was the hourly rate. That was the hourly rate, not a daily rate.
Well, I mean, what are they doing? Are restrictions being enforced?
This is troubling. You know, in Edmonton, my city, not so much. There's no danger of the enforcement officers here getting writer's cramp. Since the city's mask bylaw came in on August 1st, this isn't a province-wide thing. Each individual municipality has the right to put in their own mask bylaw. There was no province-wide order. But since it came in August 1st, officers have written just 4 tickets. They've given out a little over 2,000 warnings, but I don't think, I'm not sure whether a good talking to has really had much effect. Now, for other restrictions, Dr. Hinshaw has written to the province's police chief. She wants the chiefs to help enforce COVID-19 measures. You see, local bylaw officers can only enforce city regulations. If it's a provincial regulation, you need a full police officer. So again, in Edmonton, police between April and June wrote 90 tickets, but since June, not a one. The mayor is saying police have better things to do than using them to enforce public health measures. He says that's not a good use of resources. And he wants bylaw officers to have that authority to enforce those provincial regulations. Oh, and this just came in on Twitter a couple of, maybe half an hour ago. A Calgary police officer posted this. He says another call has come in, this one unique to the pandemic. A certificate has been issued by Alberta Health Services directing us to apprehend a COVID positive person and bring them to a hospital because they refuse to self-isolate. This officer goes on to say these have become common for us and are difficult and hazardous for us. So there's not a lot of appetite on the police department to handle these people as well. It's just really a difficult situation. And again, the scofflaws, the violators, they're in a minority, but that minority is dangerous because they present a danger to the rest of us.
Yes, because, as we know, it doesn't take many to spread the virus, right?
That's right. And then once I've got it, even though I've been following the regulations, I can spread it to others. I mean, it's the gift that just keeps on giving.
Oh, it's the holiday season, Thomas. But, well, as discouraging as those sound, we'd like to hear later on in the show what's keeping you motivated after all that. So, Thomas, we will see you again later in the show. Thank you for joining.
Okay, thank you, Anna, and you stay safe.
When we come back, updates from our Eagle News correspondents in Atlanta, Georgia, and Swarthmore, Pennsylvania. This is Eagle News America. Stay with us.
Hello there. Imagine Demi got the virus, and she infected 2 more. And those 2 infected a lot more of people. And it goes on and on until it became an epidemic. But what if Demi stayed at home? Then those 2 wouldn't have contracted the virus. Then those people would have not been infected. This is not just your battle, it's everyone's, and you can be a huge help. Follow social distancing, or better yet, stay at home.
The search for the best continues. Tagisan ng Galing Part 2 is now accepting audition entries. If you are 21 to 59 years old and have what it takes to be the next Tagisan ng Galing Grand Winner as a solo performer, duet, trio, band, or grouped act, submit your audition entries now. Just follow these guidelines. To submit audition entries for the singing category, contact Nikki at 0977-651-9504. This is your chance to be Tagisan ng Galing's grand winner and win 2 million pesos. For more details and updates, visit and like the Tagisan ng Galing Facebook page. What are you waiting for? Join now!
You're watching Eagle News America. I'm Anna Queen, Las Vegas. It ain't over till it's over. Well, for Georgia at least. The state is looking at more ballot counting in the days ahead. In Atlanta, Bureau Chief Philip Toledo reports. Philip?
Thanks, Anna. Now, for those of you that aren't in the state of Georgia, it may seem like we're repeating the same headlines over and over again when it comes to the general election and former Vice President Joe Biden flipping the state blue. But there's actually still a little bit of counting that's ahead for the state. Let's break it down for you. So first, just a couple of weeks ago, we had election night. It took several hours and even some counties several days to report their results. But when the tally was finished at the end of this, Joe Biden was ahead by about 0.26%. That doesn't sound like a lot, but it was enough for all the media outlets, or most of the media outlets, to project or to call the race in Biden's favor. Then, by Georgia law, before they could certify the results of the election, a risk-limiting audit had to be conducted manually. And when I say manually, Anna, I mean by hand, just to make sure that these results were accurate. Now, this was completed by the end of last week on Thursday, so that the Georgia Secretary of State was able to send the official results over to Governor Kemp's office for certification. Now, at the end of the hand audit, the results still have Biden ahead, but there were a few errors uncovered. Here's what Governor Kemp had to say.
However, it's quite honestly hard to believe that during the audit, thousands of uncounted ballots were found weeks after a razor-thin outcome in a presidential election. This is simply unacceptable. I've heard directly from countless Georgians. They expect better and they deserve better. It's important to note that this audit only looked at ballots, not the signatures on the absentee applications or the signatures on the ballot envelopes. The Georgians I have heard from are extremely concerned about this. So I encourage Secretary Raffensperger to consider addressing these concerns. It seems simple enough to conduct a sample audit of signatures on the absentee ballot envelopes and compare those to the signatures on applications and on file at the Secretary of State's office.
So what you hear the governor alluding to there, and what many people are questioning, are the actual signatures that each person that voted by mail or dropping in their absentee ballot had to place on the bottom of the ballot itself, and then also on the sealed envelope on the back. So the president and other Republicans are calling for a specific validation of all of those signatures, meaning match those signatures with whatever signature is on file to verify that that person actually is the one who voted. Now, other outlets are reporting that the Georgia Secretary of State's office is calling such a task, quote, illegal and impossible. And with a historic dual runoff coming, this scrutiny is not going away anytime soon. As I mentioned, we have a historic dual runoff for both Georgia Senate seats this upcoming January, and the results of which are going to determine control of the Senate. But at least the presidential results are certified. It's over, right? Well, by Georgia law, a candidate can request a recount if the difference is less than 0.5%. And Anna, do you remember the percent difference between Trump and Biden? It was less than 0.5%, let me tell you. So the Trump campaign has already requested a recount. So we've got a little bit more counting left to do here in Georgia. In Atlanta, I'm Philip Toledo. Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Philip. You know, it's been 3 weeks now, almost 3 weeks since Election Day, right? So, and with all these things still happening, recounting, and what's the mood of the community there, would you say?
That's an interesting question. I think, you have COVID fatigue or pandemic fatigue, lockdown fatigue. Now we have political conspiracy fatigue. I think everybody is getting tired. I think several of, colleagues that I know that, were staunch, Trump supporters, they've, I don't know if given up is the right word to use, but they've started to move on, accepting what most people are assuming is that Biden will be ahead. There are still a few people that, are latching on to these allegations of voter fraud or, things that are questioning the integrity of the election. But again, as I've mentioned before, the Secretary of State that's validating the election here in Georgia is a Republican. And he's even come out and stated that, some people are not going to be happy with the results, but, we're a democracy and, we have to go with, what the voters have spoken, if you will. So I don't see too many campaign flags out and about, but, as I mentioned, we've also got the Senate runoff coming. There's a lot of high profile visits that are starting to happen again in the state. And so I'm sure we're going to have a lot more to talk about next week, Anna.
Yes, we'll be looking forward to that update. But, Philip, before I let you go, you said some keywords there. People are just, they just want to move on. And I agree. My personal opinion, I think that's why even with the cases, the number of cases rising, even critical numbers in some places, I think people are just, they're ready to move on. They want to celebrate the holidays, even though it's not recommended, right?
Absolutely. And, I was just thinking about that, as I was, out getting some groceries today. And, I was having my own personal, I don't know if you can have remorse before the fact, but, worrying a little bit about, our Thanksgiving plans, which aren't going to be as extravagant as they normally would be. But, there's still going to be, some family members coming over. But then, as I'm driving around and I'm looking at all of these restaurants that have no patio or outdoor dining and they're packed and there's people just standing in line waiting to go inside. It's quite an interesting, I'm over here, feeling worried about, my mother coming to see her grandson, and then there's people just, hanging out at the IHOP and the Waffle House and all the other places. Like it's, nothing's different. So
you can say it, Philip. It's not fair. It doesn't seem fair. But I mean, for us, we will continue to do our part, and that's all we can do.
Absolutely, doing our best to mitigate risk.
Yes. Thank you, Philip, for joining us tonight, and we'll see you at the end of the show. Pennsylvania's Department of Health announces new virus mitigation efforts to further protect the state, especially its vulnerable residents. In Swarthmore, Bureau Chief Myla Simbulan joins us this evening. Myla?
Thanks, Anna. As Pennsylvania experiences a resurgence of COVID-19 cases with significantly higher daily case counts than in the spring and hospitalizations on the rise, the Wolf administration has identified 4 new mitigation efforts, which Secretary of Health Dr. Rachel Levine announced. Take a look.
As you know, in Pennsylvania, we continue to see the number of new COVID-19 cases rising, our percent positivity rising, our hospitalizations rising, as well as the number of Pennsylvanians critically ill due to COVID-19 in intensive care units rising. In order to help stop the spread of COVID-19 in Pennsylvania, we are taking targeted and strategic actions.
The mitigation efforts include, first, protecting our healthcare system. A memorandum was sent to acute care hospitals outlining expectations to care for Pennsylvanians who need care during the pandemic. Hospitals are to work through the established healthcare coalitions and other partnerships to prepare for how they will support one another in the event that the hospital becomes overwhelmed during the pandemic. Hospitals should also be working to move up elective procedures necessary to protect a person's health and prepare to suspend them if our healthcare system becomes strained. Restrictions on elective surgeries put into effect in March and lifted in April were to help with both PPE and bed capacity and were considered successful. Hospitalizations are increasing, as are ICU patients, and according to modeling from the Institute of Health Metrics and Evaluation, which does not take into account hospitalizations from influenza, Pennsylvania will run out of intensive care beds in December if ICU admissions continue at the current rate. The same modeling indicates we will have sufficient medical surgical beds with some uncertainty as to capacity from region to region. Second is traveler testing. Dr. Levine issued an order and Governor Tom Wolf signed a concurrent order requiring anyone who visits from another state to have a negative COVID-19 test within 72 hours prior to entering the Commonwealth. If someone cannot get a test or chooses not to, they must quarantine for 14 days upon arrival in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvanians visiting other states are required to have a negative COVID-19 test with 72 hours prior to their return to the Commonwealth or to quarantine for 14 days upon return to Pennsylvania. Third is strengthened masking order. Dr. Levine first issued a masking order on April 15. The order signed today strengthens this initial order with these inclusions. Masks are required to be worn indoors and outdoors if you are away from your home. When outdoors, a mask must be worn if you are not able to remain physically distant from someone not in your household the entire time you're outdoors. When indoors, masks will now be required even if you are physically distant from members not in your household. This means that even if you're able to be 6 feet apart, you will need to wear a mask. While inside, if it's with people other than members of your household. This order applies to every indoor facility, including homes, retail establishments, gyms, doctors' offices, public transport, transportation, and anywhere food is prepared, packaged, or served. And the last one is really interesting, are for colleges and universities. The Departments of Health and Education issued recommendations for colleges and universities to implement a testing plan for when students return to campus following the holidays. These recommendations include establishing routine protocols for testing. Colleges and universities should have an adequate capacity for isolation and quarantine and should be prepared to enforce violations of established policies such as mask wearing and physical distancing. Every college and university should test all students at the beginning of each term when returning to campus after a break and to have a regular screening, testing throughout the semester or term. Here's Dr. Rachel Levine once again for a few words from my fellow Pennsylvanians. Take a look.
As you have heard me say almost daily, this virus has certainly taught us that we are all interconnected, and it is our collective responsibility to protect our communities and our most vulnerable Pennsylvanians from COVID-19. This has not changed. These strategic and targeted actions are an important start to protecting our communities. Each and every one of us has an important job to do to make sure that schools and businesses can stay open. And importantly, our healthcare system can treat us if we are sick, whether that's from COVID-19 or another illness. We must stand united in stopping COVID-19. We must wear a mask, wash our hands, social distance, stay apart, download the COVID Alert mobile app. We must answer the call and collectively do our part. And as always, stay calm, stay alert, and stay safe.
In Swarthmore, Pennsylvania, Myla Simbula and Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Myla. So I heard in your report that Governor Tom Wolf is requiring testing, COVID testing for those traveling into the state, 72 hours, right? But
That's correct.
Since some Pennsylvanians travel for work in nearby states there, like Delaware and New Jersey, what are they? Do they need to be tested every day?
That's a good question, Anna. Actually, me and my husband, we both work in Delaware, but right now we've been working from home since this COVID quarantine began. So this order, which took effect last Friday, does not apply to people who commute to and from another state for work or medical treatment. So we're good. We're good for those people who's been commuting almost every day, probably just to go to work. Anna?
Thank you, Myla. Well, that's good to hear that, those the mitigation team there is doing all that they can. I like hearing, we heard this in the beginning about, being united, everyone doing each part, how we're interconnected, that, what the next person does affects, a lot of other people, right? So it's good to hear those reminders. So hope you stay safe there, Myla.
Thank you, you too.
Thanks for joining us. When we come back, updates from our Eagle News correspondents in Oxnard, California and Las Vegas, Nevada. This is Eagle News America. Stay with us.
It says the best defense is still containment.
We are in uncharted territory.
Silent volume 450. The 5 on to 100%. Traffic ban. Construction
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business every Saturday from 5 to 6 p.m. Open for Business, from vision to action.
Hey there, Arnie Aquino here at Hatley Castle, one of the filming locations for the X-Men series. Don't forget to tune in to Digital Nest only on Net25.
This is Eagle News America. I'm Anna Cui in Las Vegas. Los Angeles joins other counties as California state issues a limited stay-at-home order over the weekend. In Oxnard, Eagle News correspondent David Reggio has the details. David?
Thank you so much, Anna. Los Angeles on limited stay-at-home order issued by the state over the weekend for counties in the most restrictive purple tier of California's blueprint for a safer economy. Data collected over the past week reveals an alarming increase in COVID-19 related cases. The 7-day average sees Los Angeles County recording almost twice the hospitalization rate as compared to the beginning of the month, while deaths are also up from 900 to over 1,000 fatalities daily. In light of the disturbing surges throughout California, the state mandates over the weekend the counties in the purple tier be subject to stronger restrictions, and Los Angeles is one such county. This means that Angelinos are to follow a 1-month stay-at-home order from November 21 to December 21. This order calls for residents to remain at home from the hours of 10 o'clock p.m. to 5 o'clock a.m. every day, with the exception of essential workers such as medical frontliners or those identified as providing essential services. And with the upcoming holidays, many Angelinos have mixed reactions and decisions, with canceling their current plans in the midst of advisories from both state and county levels to delay or cancel all travel arrangements. Currently, Los Angeles County is followed stepped-up restrictions from before. For non-essential businesses and organizations that are allowed to operate indoors, only 25% of the maximum occupancy will be allowed inside. Outdoor dining can now only accommodate 50% capacity, and the same can be said of attractions like outdoor mini golf, go-kart racing, and battling cages. Personal care-based establishment can only provide services to clients who book ahead, with both customers and staff wearing face coverings the entire time. This means that services such as facials aren't permitted because it would mean that face coverings would have to be removed. Outdoor gatherings with friends and family are still permitted. However, groups must not exceed 15 people and at most should only have 2 to 3 different households in attendance. Los Angeles has warned that if the 5-day average of COVID-19 cases in the county reaches 4,000, or if we experience more than 1,750 daily hospitalizations, firmer restrictions will be self-imposed by the county in relation to outdoor and indoor dining. Restaurants and other food or drink vendors will not be open to serve customers directly, but will only be available for pickup or delivery. If the 5-day average hits 4,500 or sees more than 2,000 hospitalizations a day, then a 3-week safe-at-home order will also be implemented. This curfew would require residents to stay at home every day from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. These elevated measures would go into effect only if their threshold benchmarks are met. Unfortunately, Los Angeles County officials have already announced that they expect that cases and hospitalizations will continue to rise. In a statement from Dr. Erica Pan, the state's acting public health officer, Dr. Pan, urged Californians to change their personal behaviors in order to stop the surge. Dr. Pan went on further to say that, quote, letting our guard down could put thousands of lives in danger and cripple our healthcare system, end quote. So the long-standing infection control practices continue to be promulgated, some of which are wear a mask, keep your distance, and as much as possible, stay home. In Oxnard, California, David Reggio, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, David, for your report. So you have a longer stay-at-home order there in California. We just finished the 2 weeks, and we're waiting to hear updates from our governor here in Nevada. But you mentioned that, right now, the state determined the hours of 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. for the stay-at-home order. I wonder why that is. I would think it would be more like during the day. Can you tell us about that, David?
That's what I would assume as well, but considering when it's between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m., usually people are found sleeping or coming back from work from the day. But Anna, what they found is that most of the time when people are out during these hours, they do so for purely social reasons, right? And the dangers here is that when, let's say, a group of friends are out late getting a midnight snack, the likelihood is they'll be more focused on laughing and talking with one another, maybe sharing a few hugs and being less concerned about things like physical distancing or keeping a face mask on. Because of this, the state does find it best to place this time restriction as a response to this potential danger. Anna?
Well, it makes sense now. That tells you I don't go out at night. But exactly. It makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. Well, David, I hope that you stay safe there with your family, and thank you for joining us. And we'll see you join us in our virtual discussion at the end of the show.
Thank you so much. Stay safe, Anna.
Thank you. In Las Vegas, Lori Jarvina shares with us something the city has unveiled recently. Wondering what this is? Don't keep us waiting, Lori. Tell us about it.
Thank you, Anna. I won't keep you waiting. Vegas is world-renowned for its famous Las Vegas Strip, the bright lights, the big shows and shiny hotels, fancy resort getaways, and my favorite, restaurants to satisfy just about any culinary experience people could crave for. But what some people may not know is that the city of Las Vegas is just as proud of its downtown community. Visitors to Las Vegas may not realize that the original iconic "Welcome to Fabulous Las Vegas" sign was a landmark funded and created in 1959. And in 2013, the State Historic Preservation Office for the state of Nevada announced that the "Welcome to Fabulous Las Vegas" sign had been added to the state register of historic places. The original sign is located on 5100 Las Vegas Boulevard, where some consider it marks the official southern end of the Las Vegas Strip. Other replica signs have also been erected, and in fact, a truck crashed into one of these replicas in 2016, which was located near the Stratosphere Hotel. The destruction of that sign gave rise to the idea of the new Gateway Arches, which was built at the base of the iconic Stratosphere Hotel. It marks the northern end of the Las Vegas Strip. The Strat is a very prominent symbol of the Las Vegas skyline. The new Gateway Arches marks the passageway from the Las Vegas Strip to downtown Las Vegas. The hope of its creators is that the new Gateway Arches becomes the latest iconic image for Las Vegas. Some fun facts about the Gateway Arches include: it is composed of over 13,000 LED lights that are individually programmable, stands 80 feet tall, and each arch leg spans 140 feet across Las Vegas Boulevard. So along with all the competing bright lights of Vegas, this landmark still surely stands out and is a must-see on your next visit to Las Vegas. In Las Vegas, Nevada, Lori Jarvina, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Lori. I have yet to go out there and check that out. I mean, there's something about bright lights that really attract people, right? So what's your favorite spot here to take visitors when they visit?
Well, definitely, food is a favorite thing of mine, a favorite hobby, but Any visitor to Las Vegas won't be complete without a selfie in front of the original sign. And now with the gateway arches, definitely, a drive-through there as well. But it always goes back to food. So whenever I have visitors, we pretty much want to pig out wherever their favorite foods are. And lucky for me, I like pretty much everything. But if I had to choose, I would, kind of steer them towards maybe sushi, Hawaiian food, and a lot of original Filipino restaurants here in Vegas as well. So definitely, if anyone's out there, wants to come visit, I'm ready to take you and show you the street lights and show you where all the different hole-in-the-wall places to eat are.
Thank you, Lori. But do wait until,
Absolutely.
until the pandemic is
when we were I was surprised too, Anna, that you mentioned it. We were driving around, checking out the new gateway arches, and there were long lines still outside of different places to eat. And actually, it shouldn't shock me, but, whether it's 11 p.m. at night or 11 a.m. in the morning, the crowds, they're always there. So it is true that Las Vegas is a city that never sleeps, but it is pretty shocking. And for the most part, I'll let you know that people were wearing masks, so that's a good thing. But there are still some that don't, so a little concerning. Anna?
Yes, we'll take that. We take some comfort in that because there were times, when you only see maybe half of the people wearing masks. So at least that's still something better to see that. Well, thank you, Lori. We'll see you at the end of the show. When we come back, a report from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and as I mentioned, tonight's virtual roundtable discussion, motivational quotes to start our week. This is Eagle News. America, stay with us.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
Sa mundong waring walang puwang para sa kanilang pagmamahalan, sapat ba ang tibok ng kanilang mga puso upang bumuo ng daigdig nilang sarili? Inihahandog ng Eagle Broadcasting Corporation ang kauna-unahang romantic teleserye ng Net25. Ang daigdig ko'y ikaw. Tuwing Sabado, ika-8 ng gabi, dito lamang sa Net25. Magsisimula na ngayong November 28, 2020.
You're watching Eagle News America. I'm Anna Cui in Las Vegas. Several stories from our Louisiana team tonight. Louisiana Governor John Bel Edwards urges more COVID compliance due to the alarming rise in cases. Louisiana marks the start of Interstate Highway 10 Widening Project near Texas border. And today marks the 57th anniversary of President John F. Kennedy's assassination in Dallas. In Baton Rouge, Monica Velasco has the details.
Thank you, and hello from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. On Friday, Governor John Bel Edwards issued a letter to the editor and video message to be broadcast by all media outlets throughout Louisiana, urging residents to take COVID-19 seriously this holiday season, as a third surge of coronavirus cases and hospitalizations is currently underway. While wearing masks and social distancing are still helping to reduce the spread of COVID-19, the state's numbers are showing a need for more compliance, with nearly 212,000 Louisianans diagnosed, more than 6,000 dead. Here's what Governor Edwards had to say. Let's take a look.
Hello, everyone.
The holiday season is upon us, but unfortunately, so is COVID-19. Please know that even if we have never met, your family means a lot to me, and I want nothing more than for you to have a happy and safe Thanksgiving. Right now, we're at a crucial moment in the battle against COVID. Both cases and hospitalizations are rising quickly, and if we don't slow the spread, our hospitals will not be able to handle the increase. I simply won't let that happen. Louisiana remains in phase 3, and we are constantly assessing the data to determine our next steps. Our neighboring states of Texas and Mississippi are among the states that are seeing far worse outcomes. You have my promise that I will do everything within my power to keep our states safe, but it will take all of us to slow the spread. We've done it before. We can do it again. When we gather with those outside of our everyday household, we create environments that are conducive to catching and spreading COVID. There has probably never been a year when we have needed gratitude, love for one another more. COVID cannot take that away. That's why I'm encouraging everybody to have a plan for keeping your family safe over the holidays. Outside is safer than inside. Wear your mask if you're around people who are not part of your immediate household. This year, showing our love for those we care about means making sacrifices that will keep them safe. And remember, the CDC has confirmed that when you wear your mask, you are protecting yourself as well as those around you. So thank you for your hard work and for your diligence this year. I know we're tired from COVID and from the hurricanes, but we cannot let our guard down. Now more than ever, we must work together to keep our families and our neighbors safe. If we do that, I am confident that soon we will be able to gather around the table together again. So stay strong, stay safe, keep the faith, and God bless.
Meanwhile, in other news, Interstate Highway 10, which stretches from California to Florida, will undergo a widening project in Calcasieu Parish. On Tuesday, Governor Edwards and the Louisiana Department of Transportation Development marked the start of this groundbreaking project to widen 10.5 miles of I-10 into 6 lanes. Starting from the Texas state line to east of LA 108, and also to widen and replace 10 bridges, as well as replacing the eastbound way-in-motion system. Construction will be split into 3 segments to minimize the impact on traffic flow. The $152 million project is anticipated to be complete in 2025, depending on weather conditions. Today in history marks the 57th death anniversary of President John F. Kennedy. EBC Texas correspondent Nenita Manaos shared this photo of herself in Dallas, Texas, standing on the X marking the spot where President John F. Kennedy was assassinated November 12, 1963. Here is also a souvenir copy of the Dallas Times-Herald newspaper. The former Texas Book Depository building, where Lee Harvey Oswald was reported to have fired the shot from the 6th floor, is now known as the 6th Floor Museum, and houses artifacts from that famous day and hosts educational programs. The 6th Floor Museum is open Wednesday to Sundays, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Tickets must be purchased online, and visits require mandatory face mask. Thank you, Danita, for sharing this moment of history. Meanwhile, hope you're staying safe and healthy in your part of the country. In Baton Rouge, Louisiana, I'm Monique Velasco, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, Monique, for that report. During these very trying times, people tend to look in so many directions to get themselves motivated, especially as another work week starts. However, most of the time, all we need is one feel-good, inspirational quote, and that will set our mood for the next 5 or 7 days. So I want to ask our team here tonight to share with us some of their favorite quotable quotes that might just give you, our viewers, a simple pick-me-up today, because we all know we could use one, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and follow the grid view here. We'll start with Thomas Likeness there in Canada. Thomas?
Actually, there's several quotes, but they all sort of have this kind of a theme. And this one is from Winston Churchill. The pessimist sees difficulty in every opportunity. The optimist sees opportunity in every difficulty. And you know, that just rings so true to me because difficulty can be a good teacher. I don't know about a lot of other people, but I'm basically lazy. So difficulty actually pushes me to do things, gets me out of my comfort zone. Difficulty forces you to become innovative. All of those things. If things are going smoothly, what are you going to do? I mean, life is good. Why would I change anything? And, of course, difficulty tests your faith. So that's kind of, difficulty is a good thing.
I agree, Thomas. Difficulty, challenges make us a better person, right? Depends on how we take it and how we look at it. Well, thank you for that. How about Philip Toledo there in Atlanta? Philip, what keeps you going?
You know, and I have to admit that I'm not much of a quote person, so I may have had to do a little Googling during the breaks here. But this one quote did speak to me. It's from Walt Disney, and it says, "The best way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing." And I think especially, you know, it may be ironic that we're all sitting around talking here, you know, on the show. But, you know, when we face hard times or interesting times, you know, that we're living in now, it's very easy to get stuck in a loop of, you know, oh, you know, this is going on and this is why I can't do. And, you know, just kind of that do loop of, you know, negativity. And you have to get out of it. If you're unhappy with something or you're afraid that you're going to have a big week or a bad week, then, you know, do something about it. You know, stop talking, stop complaining, get it all out of your system, and then, you know, start taking actions to help improve your situation.
Absolutely. Well, we are talking, Philip, but we're also doing, we're delivering accurate and balanced news here at Eagle News.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that, Philip. Now let's listen to Lori Jarvina there in Las Vegas.
Yes, Anna. So a quote that I always like to think about or use is making lemonade out of lemons, you know, and taking every day as a new opportunity to do better than you did the day before. And so I always encourage my kids, you know, make mistakes. It's okay because you'll learn and you'll do better next time. So every day, instead of taking it week by week or month by month, just take it day by day. And just know that, you know, along the way, you'll always do better. And another quote I thought, and I'll just throw it in there, the sun will come out tomorrow.
I like that. Wait, before we start singing that song, let's go to David Reggio there in California. David?
You know, one notable quote that I do have in mind is what's something that Thomas Edison would make, the one that invented the light bulb. And he said something along the lines of, "I haven't failed, I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." So going along with the how negativity could be easily placed when it comes to with the pandemic and everything, and seeing how everyone's staying at home, I try my best to be self-motivated. Especially, you're not going to get anything on the first try, right? You're always going to fail, but eventually you're going to succeed, and that's all that matters. So I take that type of advice and from motivation, not only from people that inspire me, but also whenever I'm trying to do my day-to-day tasks at home. And I try my best to actually be grateful for everything I have and for what I've done so far.
Perfect. That's also one of my favorites. Now, let's quickly go to Myla. Myla?
Hey, Anna, yeah, so my quote came from a movie, Dead Poet Society. So I don't know if you guys have seen that movie, but it's Carpe Diem, or Seize the Day. Ever since I saw that movie, which is ages ago, that has been my motivational quote, especially tomorrow is Monday. So Monday is the most challenging day of the week for me. Anna?
Yes, thank you for that, Myla. Well, quickly for me before we end, is be thankful for what you have and you'll end up having more. If you concentrate on what you don't have, you will never, ever have enough. Well, thank you to our Eagle News team here for tonight for sharing with us what keeps you going, and hopefully viewers, that gives you a pick-me-up and to face this coming week. And please join me now, team, as we continue to thank our healthcare workers, first responders, and essential workers with a round of applause. We continue to appreciate each and every one of you. That is today's Eagle News America. I'm Anna Cui. We live in interesting times.
Hi everyone! Net25 Kids is inviting you to EBC Webinars 2020, a series of educational and informative webinars for teachers and parents, which will be live streamed via Net25 Kids YouTube page. We will be featuring several